Good afternoon, everybody. We are ready to begin. Items listed on the agenda may be taken out of order. Presented two or more agenda items for consideration may be combined. And any time on the agenda any item on the agenda may be removed or related. Discussion may be delayed at any time. Backup material for the agenda may be obtained from Luann Holmes, City Clerk at the City Clerk's office. I would now like to call the meeting to order, and may we take the roll, please?
Chair Nolan.
Present.
Vice Chair Dowd. Present. Member Schlappen.
Present.
Member Abramo. Excused. Member Bratcher.
Present.
Member Corner.
Present.
Member Twin. Here. And we have a quorum of 6.
Thank you. So as we proceed, we are in compliance with the open meeting law.
Yes, we are.
Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, give your name for the record, the amount of discussion, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Do we have anybody? Seeing no one, we will proceed. At this time, I'd like to get approval for the final minutes of our last regular meeting, which, as brought by Member Quinn, was in January.
Yay.
That was included in our packet, as everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes, and if so, we will take a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So for our first item, ARC 6632, public hearing, applicant Nevada Wellness Center, owner Shoshone Cattle Land and Development Company, for possible action on a request for a major amendment of an approved building and sign elevation review. This SUP-55180 for proposed signage at an approved medical marijuana dispensary that exceeds the 30 square foot in an area and 2 feet in height at 3200 South Valley View Boulevard. This is Ward 1, Councilman Tarkanian's ward. Can we have a staff review, please?
This is Jonathan Boyles with the Planning Department. This is a request for a signage review on property located at 3200 South Valley View Boulevard. The property is currently occupied by an existing medical marijuana dispensary. The applicant is proposing to utilize an existing 31-foot tall, 177.5 square foot freestanding sign located on the southwest corner of the subject site adjacent to Valley View Boulevard and Regulus Avenue. On August 3rd, 2016, the City Council approved Ordinance 6545, which amended Title 1912 by removing the asterisk that marks signage requirements for medical marijuana cultivation facilities, dispensaries, and production facilities. The applicant has proposed a major amendment to for their special use permit with a waiver to utilize the existing freestanding sign, which will be heard at Planning Commission on 10/11/16. Staff recommends denial of this request as the proposed signage does not meet the requirements outlined in Title 1912 pertaining to the medical marijuana dispensary use.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to be heard on this item?
I do. Oh, go ahead.
We'll go to the applicant.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
was wondering in the crowd. The applicant is here. Could you please state your name and address?
Good afternoon. I'm Winston Henderson, architect, on behalf of the applicant. Address 8687 West Sahara Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thank you. Please inform us.
Okay. The applicant has indicated that they're having difficulty with recognition of the site because of the adjacent buildings coming up and down Valley View Drive. And as you will note on the site photograph that I provided for you, they're indicating that they're having problems with clients who are basically driving by the building without being able to see or recognize the signage because both the building sits back on the site and also there are adjacent properties, adjacent buildings that obscure direct vision to his location as you're coming down Valley View. And if you will note on the photograph, it illustrates how difficult it is to pick up and see and recognize the existing compliant sign that is mounted on the building. And what the applicant has proposed is to utilize the existing on-site pylon sign that sits out at the curb and becomes more recognizable. We think this is consistent with the intent of Councilman Coffin's amendment to allow for adjustments to make the locations more recognizable and hopefully give them a better opportunity to thrive and succeed. So with that, we're requesting that you would approve this application and send us forward.
Thank you very much for, I want to open it up to the other members for questions. I believe Member Quinn wanted to start.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
And not to get away from the subject of your sign, but the property that is in front of your property, in front of the fence, does that belong to you or to NDOT, where those rocks are, where all the trees used to be?
Where the trees used to be.
Yeah, you know, all this gravel. I wanted to know just about the sign, of course, but you certainly aren't going to be distracted by the landscape that was in there.
Well, our property line, as you can see from this site, sits back adjacent, closer to the parking lot, and the NDOT property line then picks up, including that green area there, or the landscape area you're looking at.
So it's your opinion NDOT took out the trees, put in the gravel, and did that? Okay. Okay, that's fine. That's not what we're here for. What we're here for is this sign. So my main question is, this is my ward, so I pay a lot of attention to things here. My question would be, with this sign now being blank, I mean, there's nothing on it, is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
So to raise it higher, my opinion is if you would just put this NWC dispensary in place where it's already existing instead of adding the 13 more feet, I think you're going to accomplish the same thing and not be distracted. If you look down the street from this view, I'm just not seeing any other signs that are that high except this attorney guy over here, he's somebody. So I just wanted to make the comment and listen to my fellow friends here that it's just an opinion and a thought that the sign can stay the same height with the new application on it. My second question is, what are the hours of operation for your business?
Okay, let me answer the first question. Ms. Quinn, we completely agree with your opinion. That is exactly what we propose to do, to utilize the existing pylon sign. We're not asking to make it any higher. We're going to utilize it exactly the way it is and just place the signage onto the existing pylon. So we are not requesting
So you're just
to raise
widening
height.
it?
No, we're not widening. We're not changing the structure of the pylon sign at all.
I see. Okay, so you just want to put this nice little thing up here
onto the existing blank pylon sign.
Okay.
So we're in complete agreement with you.
Okay, and this would be lit 24 hours a day at nighttime?
That I don't know. I would imagine it
I
could.
mean, at night, it would have to be lit, right?
Certainly it would be lit during their business hours. I don't know whether it would remain continuously lit after that.
Okay, and one other question, what are the hours of operation of this property?
I'm not certain. I believe it's 9 to, it varies from day to day,
Okay.
9 to 9, but there are specific hours that are listed within the,
And that will not be added to the sign?
we're not changing, no. The
Okay.
sign will be exactly what we're showing here.
Thank you, sir.
And on your other question, I want to be clear, on the landscaping, this was a former bank.
Excuse me, I was out of line asking you that in this forum, but I'd like to talk to you about it after, thank you. Because this is about the sign and they're going to think I'm nuts.
No, I want to be clear that we're not avoiding the question.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that- Okay.
Who else would like to be here? Go ahead.
Member Fenoy, for the record. So just, and I kind of do agree with Member Quinn about the landscape. And I noticed that quite a bit has been taken out recently, and we've taken out 4 palms from the landscape median. And I know, so this picture that you provided us isn't exactly accurate. There's fewer trees. This is an old photograph that you're submitted to us showing how difficult the sign is to be seen. So we have and this goes for a lot of Las Vegas, we have a lot of issues with applicants removing things in order for the sign to be seen, but oftentimes it turns out to not be good enough, and then we need bigger signs, and we need more banners, and we need more balloons, then we need wall signs, and we need pennants, and it just seems to never end. I'm not really necessarily opposed to this monument sign, but I think I do have a lot of trouble respecting operations that clear-cut things and kind of make a scar in the city when we're trying to in fact make a better place to live in a better community. So the sign doesn't really bother me that much. We're using an existing sign, but I think you may, and maybe we can direct staff to work with code enforcement to see that the applicant gets back into compliance with their approved plans and take it from there. But the other thing too, I think the building looks like a jail. So we put up a fence, a black wrought iron fence around the whole thing, and I think that was probably a huge part of the turnoff to the customers, or the detriment that makes it look closed or they can't find it, because that's also a big visual cue that that says do not enter. So I don't know if that was for security purposes, but
It is.
But it does also function as one of those things. So it's not just the small sign on the building that does it. There are some self-imposed hardships that have added to this illusion that customers can't find the building. And question for you through you, Mr. Chair, is: are you aware of the city's regulations regarding LED signage and the animation of LED signage? In other words, that the city doesn't allow animation more than, I think, 3 seconds? 6 seconds? Thank you.
I am. We are aware, and we are not proposing any animation.
Okay.
And let me also say that it's not the intent of the owners to deviate from the required landscaping, that we have a landscape plan and certainly would not object to I will bring forth to the owner to look to refresh and return it to compliance if it's not.
Okay. Thank you.
Just can I shoot out one more question? You're coming to Planning Commission 1. Are you coming back to Planning?
I think it goes to planning on is it November 11th? October 11th?
Thank you, just for my knowledge. Thank you.
A quick question for the applicant. This is Member Nolan. On the reader board below the sign, is that reader board going to be used?
No, it is not. That is not to be used for this business. The building has a space for a secondary business which may use that in the future, but at this point it is not proposed that will be part of this signage.
So I think that would have to be clear. The second question may be for staff. You folks know more of any changes and whatnot. I just know when we sat through whatever it was, 45 or 50 applicants, and we approved the number, everybody had the same restriction of 30 square feet. on the building. I thought it could be broken down to 2 signs, but it couldn't be more than 30 square feet, is what I remember. And the people had the choice of which building they wanted to use. This one set back a little further, but that didn't seem to be an issue at the time. And if memory serves me, the pylon was supposed to be removed, which may open the actual building to the sign. And a fear of being fair to all concerned is if we change this now and allow more than the 30 square feet of a sign, we're going to have every single applicant, and my guess is going to come back and say they have an unfair advantage, and we all want to put signs up on the street. And I don't see, and it has nothing to do with the applicant in front of us, I just don't see everybody, I would believe, would come back and say, this is unfair. We want a sign down the middle, out on the street. So what is the 30 square feet now going to go to? Is it going to go to 150 square feet? So that's my question. I'm sorry for my ignorance.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through Steve Swan, planning, you are correct in that when this first came through, there was a 30 square foot area restriction on the signage. It's per street frontage. And in this case, they did have that sign, and this body added a condition to remove the freestanding sign, which then they came back later, did a review of that condition, and it was allowed to remain on the site. So now they're able to use that for their business. And they're here before you today to ask for the sign to be put in that location. And now with this previous ordinance, to allow the applicant to ask for a waiver of the 30 square foot area restriction, it's to your discretion to approve or deny. And then, again, this goes to Planning Commission for not just, this is the design portion of it, you would then be seeing the signage portion of it to actually allow that to happen, allow the waiver to be approved.
So if my question is out of line because it's not within our scope, I understand that. But I would like to ask a question of the city attorney. Would not we open the possibility that every single one that we approve is now going to come back?
Chairman, thank you. There is, how do I say this? As it always is with code amendments, regulations are one thing at one time, and regulations can be something else at a different time. And yes, I think you're correct that if there is a waiver granted on one sign, then many have now the opportunity to come back and ask for the same thing. I don't know that it'll lead to that. It possibly will. It's happened in the past, but the city council made a decision to allow for people to request waivers at 30 square foot max. And because that is done, that happened, they can do so.
Okay, so then the initial 30 square feet was, who set the initial 30 square feet? The council?
The city council did, yes.
Okay, so the city council has changed that. Okay, well, that answers my question, I guess.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I
Yes.
would say that the amendment by Councilman Coffin is in fact to address what I believe they recognize as perhaps some constraining conditions with the 30 square feet, that these are in fact businesses that still need to become successful, and having that 30 square feet I think has proved problematic in some instances, certainly in ours specifically, and I believe that the amendment was meant to try to alleviate that, and our request, we believe, follows the intent of that amendment. It is an existing on-site sign that we're looking to have. It will not have animation. We think it's very straightforward and clear. We share the opinion of Ms. Quinn that it's clear that it would certainly become more visible and is consistent with the other signs that are up and down the street.
Please.
Vice Chair Dara, it was my understanding with the existing sign, we were going to remain it to utilize the other business in the building?
That was the initial intent, yes.
Okay. So you think in the future you would be using it?
The other business would likely use it as well, yes.
Okay. But it would be primarily for your business or for your client's business?
Well, it would be consistent with what we've shown.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman, I have a few comments.
Yes, please.
David Bradford for the record. So just a clarification with staff. The code prior to today, or actually prior to August 3rd, did not include a waiver option. It's still, the code today still says 2 feet in height and 30 square feet in area, but now it allows for a waiver beyond that. So the base standard is still, when staff reviews it, and I'm reading your recommendation for denial, it's based on the fact that it goes beyond the 2 feet in height and 30 square feet in area. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now today, because there is a waiver that was allowed or passed by council, the applicant has a right to come back to this board for appropriateness only to look at the signage, and then any request on a waiver would be heard by planning commission and city council.
That is correct.
Okay, so I've been on this board since inception, I believe, but the almost inception. The reason we had no say in how the signage code came for the medical marijuana, but yet this board was, whether correctly or wrongly, was included in that process by when the process was created. So we looked at 50, 60 different items, and every one of them had a condition that of the same square footage. So the property owner of this site and the owner of the business both knew when they initially applied that they could not go beyond the 2 feet in height and 30 square feet in area. Added to that was a condition, I believe by myself, is that the existing pylon sign should be removed because there was no need for a pylon sign if in fact the owner and the business owner agreed to the signage allowed per code. Now, that sign has been allowed to be, it's basically been a year ago, the sign is allowed to be here. I think I voiced objection at that time also, foreseeing this coming, meaning that eventually certain landowners are going to be able to utilize things that other landowners didn't have. And to your point, a perception of, fairness may not be there. But it doesn't forbid someone who doesn't have a sign from adding a sign now to a site. They'd have to go through the same waiver process. Am I correct?
Mr. Chair, through you, correct.
Okay, so I'm going to, actually, I won't support the project just because I don't think the owner and the business owner ever intended to comply with what we had put forward. Secondly, I don't think it's appropriate for this type of business to have that large of a sign. That's my own opinion. That's the reason I won't support it.
May I just make one comment before my friend Trinity puts it all together in a nutshell? And this is, I know I learned from Jim Lewis that what's in front of you today is what's in front of you now, and you're not to think about what's coming or what's going, but I just want to make it for the record that if in fact the 2017 legislature makes marijuana a recreational drug and the distance separation is only 300 feet, I mean, I have a problem thinking that 300 feet from here, if this sign is this big, 300 feet, you know, it just could pile up. And I know that's not what's in front of us today, Mr. Lewis, but, and I learned that from you, but I just want, I'm thinking about that just because I kind of foresee that. And I'm going to listen to my friend Trinity, who has a good way of putting everything in a nutshell, and I will vote accordingly. Thank you. Go.
Thank you, Trinity Slotkin, for the record, and thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Listen and put it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much heard what everybody has said here, and agree with Dave Bretcher's comments. However, you know, well, where's this stop? Does it stop at 100 square feet or 300 square feet or 500 square feet? And some places it may be appropriate. I'm thinking of one off of DI where they painted the entire side of the building, but it basically fronts on Desert Inn, and so it's not in your face as you're just going down the street. And there's no direct access off of it. It's more Brandon versus, you know, showing you how to get there. I mean, and looking at it, I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of, does it look professional? And I'll look at it just from that sense, and I would have to say, yes, it does look professional and like a medical office would be. I don't like the way that this whole thing comes about. However, then again, it was a review of condition that was removed, and they did take all the steps, even though they knew that this was going to come at some point. They did take the proper steps to make that happen. One of my biggest fears is with that LED reader board, and thinking that something might flash up there one day saying, buy your weed here, or your medicine here, or weed here when it goes recreational.
Yeah.
And really, it'd be really hard to regulate something like that. Most of the commissioner plans going down the road and she actually sees it and takes the picture.
And I accidentally turn in.
Yes.
I mean, I'd be nervous.
So if it does go forward, through the chair, I'd like to ask staff and Mr. Lewis if it would be appropriate to add a condition to the statement, absolutely no advertising for this business on the LED reader board.
Chairman, my comment would be this. You certainly can add any condition that you think is reasonable and influential to the application. The fact of the matter is they can't have advertising on the reader board, and we have code enforcement action to prosecute against them. But if you'd be more comfortable with that condition, then place a condition as you say.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Chairman, how about Mr. Lewis, we just tell him that this reader board just has to come off the sign altogether, just rip it out of there. We can't do that.
Well, it's not you can't do that. This board has,
Limited?
so probably the answer is probably yes. And since this is going to city council, planning commission, city council for review, there will be other eyes around this. And
Right.
another board that has the power to take that action. This is an existing column sign with an existing reader board.
Yes.
Yeah, again, you have it within your power to place conditions that are relevant to the application that will, in essence, even though some of this is final action, in essence will be reviewed again at the planning commission and city council level. So I would just suggest you take those actions you think are appropriate.
Well, one reason why I like to specify certain things like that is because of actions that we've taken at planning commission in the past and subject to all sign regulations per Title 19.105.63, and Jonathan will probably say you messed up on what paragraph that come out of. But people don't know what Title 19.106.6 is. But if they actually have it, they can't say, oh, well, we didn't know that applied. So this way it's.
Let's make sure we get let's make sure we get the condition right then, because what it is you want to do is say that what you're concerned about is the medical marijuana business using the reader board, yes?
Yes.
Okay, can I ask a question to the applicant?
Yes, please.
The applicant owns the entire center?
That is correct.
And the sign?
That is correct.
And there's an empty suite that may very well use that reader board?
The entire second floor of the building, so a significant tenant.
So I would just be careful to limit your condition, if any, to the suite with the medical marijuana business, because I don't think what I hear you saying is you want to preclude another business from using the reward. So I would just suggest being careful about the condition you draft, excuse me.
Mr. Chair, if I may, that the applicant has no objection to your adding a comment that the medical marijuana business will not advertise on the reader board.
Chair, for you, just for history, the owner of the business and the property had no objection to removing the sign together 2 years ago. And just to clarify again for the board and for myself, the new way the asterisk, removal of the asterisk from the 2 feet in height and 30 square feet area basically opens up the sign to any height in any area. It's unlimited.
That is correct.
There's no limits on any.
As long as the sign complies with sign code.
And if someone comes in with a sign, a waiver that goes to council for approval. So, based on those two things, I still can't support your project. I understand the need for it. I understand the reason, but I think again, we have to focus on the appropriateness. I think that this was advertised as a sign. I don't think it was advertised as a sign with a reader board and a sign with an area face. I think it's one sign, it's not 2 signs. So but it's appropriate to the sign as it stands today. You're asking to keep the existing sign as it is today, which includes the reader board.
Yes. Well, but the reader board is not a part of this application.
Well, the sign includes a reader board.
For use by another business.
The sign includes a reader board today.
Yes, it does.
You're asking for the approval to use the sign with a waiver. We're to determine if it's appropriate to use that sign at that site, yes or no. So I would say, if you're going to add a condition, I think that you're automatically stating that that sign isn't appropriate. But that's my own opinion.
Yeah.
So I will stop there and say, I agree where I'm at. Just here.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I mean, just hypothetically, you could get the doctor that gives out the cards up there, and then the reader board could be announcing the doctor, here's the bottom line, the reader board's got to go. I mean, it just, whether we condition it here that it's not used, I don't think anybody that you rent to, whether it's Dairy Queen or I don't know what would go up there. I'm assuming it's going to be a doctor. That's just my gut feeling. I don't think anything should be flying around on that reader board, regardless if it's a cop or a doctor or anything, because it just happened on Valley View near me. This sign popped up out of nowhere. I don't even know what the heck, and it's like flashing and all these things. And so my point is that regardless of who goes in here, that reader board should not be used, period.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, question for you and through you for staff. Since this is a sign for the medical marijuana use, if, let's say, the read board comes off in the future, or if they add other tenant signs below this sign, will that have to come back to us because the medical marijuana use is on that sign?
I'm Chairman, so I can't do resolution today. Go ahead.
Sure, Mr. Chair, through you. My opinion is yes, it would come back because this is part of one sign. This isn't 3 signs, or you're adding to an existing freestanding sign. It's one sign. Because the primary tenant on that sign is a medical marijuana establishment, then yes, they would have to come to this.
I guess my final comment would be that would create like an additional burden on, the staff and DDRC and me every time they have a tenant that comes in that wants to change a sign out, because every tenant's going to want the sign. Therefore, we're going to be so. Now, what we're going to be experiencing is if we have 12 of these, and then if they're not a freestanding business, so let's say half of them, 6 of them are in buildings with other uses, and they have anywhere from 1 to 6 tenants, we're going to be in here looking at these every month.
Chairman, can I just say
Please.
While I agree conceptually with what the planning staff has said, I think there might be a nuance or two that I would want to discuss with the planning department about when applications have to come in before this board when they don't have anything to do with the medical marijuana business. So I don't think the planning staff is wrong, but I think there may be a nuance or two that we should discuss. I see where you're going, and that could be certainly a valid concern. So I can think more about it while we're sitting here if that's going to be the crux of the decision you make today, but I think I might just say that's something that we can visit about later and come to some understanding with. But I don't know if it'll make a difference in what you're doing here today about the appropriateness of the sign and the design of the sign.
Mr. Chair?
Let me add also, Mr. Chair, this is Steve Swan again, that the code was not designed for this particular type of sign. And so we're kind of working on the fly here, just with the restriction being lifted for 30 square feet and 2 feet in height. It may be that we need to revisit the code and add some things or tweak it a little bit in order for this to be successful across the board. And when you get into specific instances like this, then these sorts of issues and conundrums come about. So it's something that we will probably visit in the future as more of these come forward.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to offer a thought that rather than, I don't believe that the applicant would want to damage the capacity of his being able to lease the rest of the building in terms of removing the reader board. But I believe it would be agreeable to place as a condition that that reader board be covered until such time that a tenant actually moves in to use it. The tenant of another business moves in to use it. And they say, well, let's cover the reader until that time. That removes the possibility that it's usable, but it also allows them to have that component there to increase the leasability of the space and keeps from having to damage further the existing sign. Because once you start pulling this off, now there are structures and braces. It's not just a matter of simply removing it. The signs have to be repaired.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for denial and
Oh, can I just say-
call for a motion on denial of ARC 66332.
There's a motion on the table, I guess. I can't tell.
All those in favor?
Looking to second.
Oh, somebody will second that.
I second the motion for denial.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This time, aye.
I didn't vote.
I
Yeah.
don't know, I'm really confused.
Yeah,
I'm
Well,
sorry.
there's a motion on the
I'm
floor.
still thinking.
right. I agree.
I just had another question I wanted him to answer before.
Well, there's a motion on the
It's too
floor,
late,
so
so I
either has to
can't.
be.
I know, and
So-
it's usually a planning commission, I get a yes or no and can think about it for a second.
Yeah.
Two abstains.
Sir,
There's no one abstaining.
I'm not abstaining. Sir, could you please repeat the exact definition of what we're voting on again? Approving, please, I have to hear it.
Right. David?
Thank
I'm
you.
recommending denial of ARC 66332.
Denying it. And it still goes to planning, Mr. Lewis.
Well, this,
I for denial.
I for denial.
Okay.
so we got four.
Well, and again, help me here. I don't disagree with David. And do I have to vote? Can I make a statement?
No, I couldn't.
Should we vote again to make sure we know?
Of course you could.
I'm asking, can I make a statement in the middle or?
Well, I couldn't, but you could.
Well, you're the chairman of this board. This is your meeting. We do have You have the
I know
motion.
there's a motion that I was asking to say something
But,
prior to
Mr. Chairman,
voting.
yes, the answer is absolutely. Mr. Rita.
And when I'm saying and voted against the motion,
That's how it goes.
I thought we were premature because there were still people making, there were still questions. People were speaking and the motion was brought up.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying I'm against the motion that Member Bradford made.
Right.
I didn't think we were there yet.
Oh, you didn't think you were voting?
Yeah, I had
And,
another question.
Okay.
and that's what I was saying. As Commissioner Quinn said, asking for the removal of the animated, let's not forget that it was agreed upon by the applicant to remove the entire pile, and that didn't happen. At the same time, what the applicant is asking for, the city council has granted a waiver on that. I don't like it. It's not from the intentional plan. And to answer what Mr. Schlotman said, when you say half are going to come back, I believe all will come back. But we can't say because we don't want to spend the time, which I don't, but we don't want to spend the time is not an appropriate reason. But I think every single one of these people will come back. And I think what we vote on today, more recently than not, the council has overturned lately. And of course, the planning commission and the council's right to do so. But our original guidelines were 30 square feet and to be non-explosive, or whatever the correct term would be. Whatever happens, I still would request on whatever motion there is, and if it's flat, no, with the understanding that we still, on this reader board, is understanding that the reader board cannot be used for marijuana. It has to be a secondary tenant, not advertising the business. I don't know, can that even happen? If we're overturned, but you still have that one item in there.
Well, Chairman, I would say this. I think that the record reflects your concerns. The fact that Mr. Schlotman, yourself, and some others don't want to see the reader board used for marijuana. You've got a motion for denial that is on the floor. There was a second. There were 6 votes in favor, as far as I can tell. There are no conditions to be placed on motions for denial.
I wanted to put a condition.
But it's a motion for denial, and you can't put a condition on
Okay.
Mr. Bratcher's motion.
That was my question. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and just for the record, I want to be clear what I stated, and maybe I wasn't clear enough previously, stating I don't want to come back before this board. I wasn't saying that I don't want to come back before this board for the 12 applicants. And when I said 6 of them, because I know that there's some freestanding buildings that are out there where they wouldn't have another tenant in there. So, what I was saying is if this is in a shopping center with 20 other non-medical marijuana related, applicants, every time somebody moves in or moves out, we're going to be looking at the same sign, and we already approved the medical marijuana. All we're approving is signs not even related to medical marijuana. But since it's attached to a sign that has medical marijuana, we're pretty much going to be wasting our time.
But I think you're going to be okay on that. Like I said, I think there's some nuances we've got to discuss about on that point.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, are we discussing this again?
No, I don't. It's your meeting. We've got just remind me, we got a motion, we got a second.
We have a
I don't know. I apologize for the procedure, not knowing the procedure.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to make a
Now-
suggestion.
The question would be, because of this added conversation that I started, is it proper to state the motion again.
No. Chairman, if we were in the city council chambers and we took a vote, we'd have already pressed a button and our computer would have already
Right.
captured the vote. Just because we're raising our hands doesn't change, and I'm sorry to say it just doesn't change the fact of the matter there was a vote taken. And so what you could do, if we wanted to discuss this again, we could someone on the winning side could rescind you could vote to rescind the prior action and you could start over. And I'm not trying to be bureaucratic, that's just, we got to vote.
I appreciate that. I want to follow proper procedure.
So what we got right now is we've got a motion to approve denial. I mean, we've got a motion for denial that was approved. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up now.
It was, because I thought they had said it was 222, but where are we
Mr.
at?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to rescind.
Well, hold on,
Motion.
Oh, good.
Make sure we're covered, let's make sure we know what we're doing here.
I'll only take a minute. Like, I'm not going to talk long.
I second the
Well, we
motion.
got 1, 2, 3, 4, so we only had 6 total. Well, okay, so Connie and Nolan were no on the denial. I thought everybody was, I thought I heard yeah, okay. So it's 4-2 to approve the motion to deny. We just had, so it was denied. We had a motion, we had another motion. The chairman recognized
Mr.
David
Brasher?
Brasher. He made a motion to rescind the prior action, and now
Member Slotman seconded.
we had a second for Schlotman, and now we have a vote.
What are we voting for?
To rescind the prior
Oh, to
action,
talk more?
so you can start over again.
Well, I don't want to start over. I just want to make a comment.
Well, then make one more
But
comment.
we have to start
Mr.
over.
Chairman, there's a motion on the floor.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, can we have a vote to rescind the prior motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now, are we back open for discussion?
You can call the
So, let me just
call over.
clarify, and I apologize if I, just Member Brasher for the record, but I apologize if I cut anyone off, but that was not my intent. I see this action going forward with an approval or denial.
Right.
Even if the approval includes a condition to eliminate the reader board, I see that as probably not going to be what happens. I think the applicant will basically be able to keep the existing sign as it exists today with no condition on the reader board, even though they might ask or might state that they want to keep that for the second time. What's before us today is the appropriate to the sign itself. That's it. It's just the appropriate to the sign for that location. Not the height, not the area, not the reader board. And in my mind, what we've always been going through, even though council changed the code to allow any size sign now to be approved, this sign in my mind is still not appropriate for that business at that location, which is why I made a recommendation for denial. And that's what I'll also do, that I'll open for anybody else.
Mr. Chair, one more comment from staff here. And again, this is Steve Swan. As Member Bratcher just stated, you're looking at the appropriateness of the sign only. You're not looking to approve a waiver of the standards. That is the job of the Planning Commission. However, if you, for example, deny this request here today, this could be appealed to the City Council, and they would be the ones to take action on the appropriateness of the sign only. So I just want
Through
to
you, Mr. Chairman.
keep that
Would
distinction
bypass the
separate
planning
between the
commission?
waiver and the appropriateness of
Would
the
that
sign.
bypass the planning commission, sir? And it would go straight to council?
It goes straight to council, the appeal does.
I see.
Mr. Chairman, we hear more from the staff on the meaning of appropriateness. What specifically are we, when you say to judge only the appropriateness, what does that entail?
Chairman, I don't know how you want me to answer this, except that appropriate in this context is what each of you think is appropriate. We know what the common meaning of appropriate is, and so you sit in judgment as to whether this is appropriate or not for that site.
Okay, thank you. Member Quinn, did you have a comment?
I just
before
had
we
a quick
move on?
comment to the gentleman that is proposing the sign. It would just be my opinion and in good faith that if this sign continued down past the reader board, and therefore if you have a doctor or a dentist or something that comes in, the sign could look like this, where you have your dispensary thing is the big thing, and then down here you can have Dr. Reefer or the chiropractor or whatever, because in good faith, you would still be advertising your tenants, and in good faith, the reader board would not be a distraction, and in good faith, you would see my support, but otherwise you will not. Thank you.
Just one last clarification. The reason for my deeming it not appropriate is the code standard is still 2 feet in height and 30 feet in area. It does allow for a waiver, which is not part of our review. My appropriate is based on the standard that exists. If city planning department comes back with a different size, that might be appropriate also. But right now, the standard is 2 feet high, 30 square feet in area, which is what I deem appropriate.
Okay,
It's
thank
beyond
you.
that, so I would recommend denial.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? We will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I may, does that then mean that if any other applicants, any of the other 12 applicants, come in and request anything larger than the 30 square feet, that this body would also want to deny?
I
Go ahead.
I'm not sure I would answer that question. We're speculating now about other applicants that are before you.
Right.
I would advise you not to answer that
As a
question.
person who's been on board, I would, like, until code is changed, I would deem it,
I
I was going
understand.
to say the code should change. Would be the only
my
reason.
opinion only, not the board.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for denial of ARC 66332.
I second it. What?
Is there a second to the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Okay. Delivering the law.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, that may be appealed to the city council at the next available city council meeting.
Very good.
We do appreciate the effort and thought that you're putting into it.
Sir, I really don't really want my plans, but just in case, I just think it's a really nice idea because then you can still advertise your people. There's no distraction and you're keeping your quick.
Okay, we're still on the record. This is time for citizen participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the committee. No subject may be acted upon by the committee unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, give your name for the record, the amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time on any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Does anybody wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, make a motion for adjournment.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Mr. Lewis, may I ask you a question after the
Yes.